Hello again. Hello, can you all see me, hear me all right? Jolly good. Everybody comfortable there? Excellent. So, thank you for being part of my experiment here, which takes the form of a paranormal investigation, although I do personally prefer the word preternatural, because there is an explanation for hauntings and strange phenomena. We just haven't discovered them yet. Preternatural is a word that means just that. You are here, as I've said before, as my sensory observers in sight and sound and touch feel. So please make a note of anything you might see or hear, or feelings or change in temperature or anything like that. That is your job. Feel free to make as many notes as you like on your notepads or notebooks, there may even be some pencils and paper I left for you down there. The equipment you see in the room around you is all specially hired and modified by myself and my assistants at the university. It's very finely calibrated for that room, so please do not touch any of it, or indeed anything. You can look, certainly there's useful information around the room, but do not move anything at this stage. Also, because of the nature of the experiment, there is a slight electrostatic charge that is building within the room. So it's important you remain within your groups for COVID rules, obviously, which we're being very mindful of, but also should you move out of the groups or move fast, then you might trigger an electrostatic charge and give yourselves a shock. So no running. This isn't a scare fest. It's a sensible experiment. So don't run or anything like that. We don't want to trigger an electrostatic charge. Remain within your groups. Remain calm. It's important to remember that nothing you see or hear can hurt you tonight. You're perfectly safe. I can guarantee that. Now, the reason I chose to base my experiment in the paranormal or preternatural at the Deadington Lodge Hotel is because of its unique history. I've been fascinated with the place for some years. Now, if I can give you a few notes on the history of this place, I do believe, now its original name was in fact the Deadington Lodge Hotel. It was built in the 1800s, the early 1800s, by a chap called Thaddeus Dedworth, who moved to Whitchurch from the east coast of Norfolk, a small village there. It was originally conceived as a coach house for local businesses who sent travellers to and fro and goods to and fro, but it didn't really get used for that by the locals for reasons which will become apparent. Now, during its construction in 1812, there was a horrific accident where a worker fell from the roof, but in such a way that his neck was caught in a rope, and during his fall, at the extent of the rope, his head was ripped forcibly from his body, creating an awful mess. It was quite the talk of the town for some time. Some people said, in fact, they thought he might have been pushed, but I think that's just superstitious nonsense, gossip really. The work continued apace and was completed, in fact, that same year, Halloween, in fact, in 1812. Interestingly, Thaddeus Dedworth had a belief in the worlds of fae, otherwise known as fairy, which aren't quite the things we see on television today. He believed there was some kind of gateway to the Fey worlds here, which was a fascinating belief of his. He held very, very strongly from what I've been able to gather. In 1816, anyway, this place had gained a rather odd reputation with the locals, mainly because I think Dedworth's friends from all over the country, I think, but also from Norfolk, would come to stay here and stay closeted in secret meetings throughout the time they were here. Although some people did use the place as a coaching inn and stop over here. And in fact, in 1891, one guest was found dead in one of the rooms, quite shockingly. He was found dead. The poor maid who found the body said he was drained of blood and missing one hand completely. Obviously the doctor was called, and from the records, there's a brief note in the margin saying the doctor initially said there were teeth marks around the stump, but he refused to be drawn further on this, and the official cause of death was brain fever, so no further investigation was taken on that. As a side note, I also discovered poor Angeline, the maid, suffered a fatal fall later that year. She stumbled down the stairs just outside there and landed awkwardly and broke her neck and died instantly. Apparently, she was discovered there and with a look of terror and shock upon her face, which I feel very sorry for the poor thing. By 1820, the place had got an even more of an odd reputation, as from the start of that year, more and more of Dedworth's friends came to visit. He had, in fact, renamed this place Deadington Lodge, possibly because it sits on the road Doddington, but also of his name and a macabre sense of humour. All this peaked around about October of 1820, when all his friends were visited, and there was weird chanting heard from the gardens here. The police were called, and indeed the vicar called to investigate. And when they approached the gathering in the garden here, they discovered that Dedworth had in fact died, and his body was being interred on the premises. As this was part of his will, as was proved by his friends there, then nothing further was done. But there was a local note by the constable who attended that this was indeed very strange behaviour. The locals stayed clear after that for a long, long time, and it did operate as a very basic service as a guest house, and people would stay. In fact, Dedworth's friends from further afield ran this place for 80 years. And then all of a sudden it was abandoned in 1907 and remained completely empty until 1917, when obviously during the Great War it was set on fire and in fact burned to the ground, which is quite odd, I do believe. Things may be warming up. Fascinating, really, isn't it? Now, where were we? I do believe, yes, we reached 1820 and the death of Mr. Dedworth. Now, it lay empty for many, many years post its burning down, post the Great War, and gradually becoming more and more derelict as things went on. And then a priest or a vicar named of Reverend Appleby, who had a fascination for the area and indeed the Deadington Lodge Hotel, and he had a stay in Whitchurch and interviewed a lot of the locals about the place, and did a lot of research himself, a lot of which my research has been based on. He memorably in 1910 stayed overnight here on All Hallows Eve, and was heard to be singing hymns loudly and reciting psalms. He left the following day and never returned to Whitchurch. And nobody really knows what this was about. But around about 1934, he did publish a small book about the Deadington Lodge Hotel, which wasn't widely circulated, and the remains of which I've used in my research, which has been very, very helpful. Yes, there's a passage in there that his research uncovers that Thaddeus Dedworth and his cohorts believed that he would return from the world of Fae immortal with mystical powers in 200 years. That will be Halloween this year. Well, there have been, let me see, now, during the war years of World War II, apparently, the place lay empty again. Locals wouldn't go near it for good reason, although there were reported lights on in the building. which was very strange as it was uninhabited for many, many years. Air raid warden visited, had to see what was going on, but nobody was there. Obviously, people stayed away. In 1963, it was renovated to a good standard as well. And I think by that time, a lot of local myths had dissipated, and it became a centre of rather joyful celebrations. Birthday parties were had here, locals came for a drink here, it was part of a pub crawl, weddings and marriages and so forth, and parties were had. It was quite a jolly place. Although there were odd reports from time to time, the sound of chewing like a dog with a bone from one of the rooms. A feeling of being watched in the upper corridor here. Indeed, a headless man on the roof was seen, or reported to have been seen occasionally, and also the maid, poor Angeline, was sometimes glimpsed at the bottom of the stairs, although never directly, always out of the corner of somebody's eye. If one focused on the spot, there was nobody there. And indeed, there was an unsettling feeling to be felt in the corner of the garden where the remains of Thaddeus Deadworth were interred. There have been other investigations over the years. In 1977, I have discovered some photographs in the 70s, which I will put on the screen for you now. And also, there was an early EVP experiment, which, if you don't know what EVP is, it's the electronic voice phenomena, basically where you set up a recording device in a room that merely measures sound, and some sounds were... I can play this for you now, actually. Let me play this for you now. Here we are. Fascinating, isn't it? Absolutely fascinating. There was also a photo taken by a visitor to the town in 1983 that's come to light. It shows nothing special other than what could be somebody on the roof with no head. And finally, the most recent investigation that I could find here was found on YouTube, I believe, by a couple of young people investigating this site, and they have some footage which is very, very interesting, and I will play that for you now.
Hi guys, so we're here in Whitchurch, Deadington Lodge Hotel in Shropshire. It's actually Halloween today, 2010. I'm here with a mate Pete, who is just down the hall. We've decided to do a bit of a paranormal investigation. We've kind of always had a bit of a feeling about these kind of things, and we've heard that this hotel is actually haunted. So I'll show you my room. I'm in room 1, which is actually a really nice room. Got everything you need. Bathroom's over there. Nice big wardrobe. And yeah, then Pete is down the corridor in, I think, room 4. 2 of the most haunted rooms, I believe. So yeah, we're just here to give it a listen. It's actually very quiet in here. And the whole hotel actually is really quiet, and we've heard apparently there's a maid, a ghost of a maid, of a haunted, who haunts the hotel. So maybe she'll come make my bed. Guess we just sit and wait. Did you guys see that? It's a breeze. It's just a breeze in here. It's definitely getting a bit cold. Pretty sure this door was open when I just showed you around. We'll go over and have a look just to make sure. Turn the light on. I hate this bit. Okay, here we are in the bathroom. Okay, as far as I can tell, there is no one else here with me. You guys back me up on that one. Okay, this is really freaking out. The pillows on the bed have moved. They definitely weren't like that before. Okay. Deep breaths. Definitely something doesn't not feel quite right in here. Something just came from the other side of the bed. Seems kind of creaky, and I'm not sure if maybe it's just the chair. Okay, I can hear footsteps. Don't know where they're coming from. There's still no one in here. It's just me. Okay, now the lights are flickering. This is getting really freaky, and it definitely feels cold in here. Okay. It's nice to open the wardrobe. Okay, I'm done. This is too scary.
It's quite dramatic, isn't it? Very, very good. Yes, I think you'll agree. What little I have found of the remains of Reverend Appleby's book has been very, very, very helpful to me. It's got very cold in here all of a sudden. Do you feel that there? I can hear footsteps going past the door. I'll be right back. Well, very interesting, I'm sure you'll agree. There seems to be quite a lot of preternatural phenomena happening here this evening. At which point I should mention to you that the device you see in the corner of the room isn't actually one of mine. It came with the house, and I think the dust cloth has slipped off it. It does temporarily, sporadically start to work. And I'm not sure if that has anything to do with anything. I mean, there's lots of strange things happening, but there are always plausible explanations, which I try and go through first. I mean, underground cavities in an area can amplify the smallest of sounds and bring them back into the room as very weird and strange sounds. We have electromagnetic atmospheric interference, which can affect the senses, as well as seismic underground wavelengths, which can help make people see lights or feel a presence. And then, of course, there's temporal lobe epilepsy, which can induce hallucinations, or good old sleep paralysis, which affects some people and is awful. As well as there are accepted preternatural theories as to why things happen, such as the recorded stone theory. For instance, the recorded stone means a building or an area can soak up the energy of a particular event, say something traumatic, and replay it again over time, which I believe is why some people believe battlegrounds are haunted. Also, there are the idea of time fissures or time bubbles. So perhaps a break in time means our events are leaking backwards in time, and some events are leaking forwards in time, hence inexplicable phenomena that way. Or of course the parallel dimensions, which I believe Dedworth was very fond of, his dimension of the Fae or fairy dimension being particularly a gateway here. All of these are accepted theories as well. So please look around the room. Like I said, don't touch, don't run, don't be afraid of anything, and make sure you know where everything is and what everything is. Make notes if you need to, like I say, observe sight, sound, feeling, and then you should be ready any moment now to leave by the door to your right, my left, your right, as you're looking at the room now, and then take a trip out into the garden and observe the grounds there. As I say, remain within your groups in a safe distance from another group, and do not run for fear of sparking electrostatic charge. It simply remains for me to say thank you very much for taking part in my experiment, and good luck, and I look forward to your feedback. Thank you. Off you go. Go on. Don't hang around. Don't touch that. Don't lick it. For God's sake, don't lick it. Oh. Well, now you've done it, haven't you?